Thank you to new patron Ninja Apple. Become a patron for a video shoutout and early access to new episodes. Fortunate doesn't begin to describe today's guest. McMeghan is the very player responsible for competitive Pokemon's most iconic meltdown. The man who flinched Lavos with his Gyarados repeatedly to win the Smogon Classic tournament, leading to a historic post that has cemented itself in the game's history. But there's more to McMeghan than just that. If we're talking about greatest competitive Pokemon players of all time, McMeghan is one of the absolute titans who is firmly in that conversation. McMeghan is a veteran of competitive Pokemon who has competed at a high level in just about every generation of OU, and performed better in all of them than most solo mains. McMeghan is perhaps most known for his untouchable status in Gen 3 OU as one of the format's most elite competitors. He also happens to be a member of the ADV Council, and is an active participant in many policy discussions, has led to positive changes and acted as a voice for his fellow tournament competitors. Many also aren't aware of this, but McMeghan is the one who came up with the name ADV Revival for our popular tournament series. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today, McMeghan, and how are you?
It's a pleasure to be here. As I've told you before, I'm a fan of the channel and your personality in general, so I was looking forward to this.
It's an honor to chat with you finally. I've known you for quite some time, but we've never spoken on a call before, actually. So
Yeah, that's the first time.
You know, being an up-and-comer in old gens OU and stuff, I was a fan of yours, always looked at your team dumps and your posts on Smogon and all that. So
well, I'm glad I could be inspiration.
First question I have for you is the origin of your username McMeghan. What's the story behind that?
So I grew up playing other games than Pokemon, and one of my favorites on the PlayStation 2 was Ratchet and Clank.
Oh yes, classic.
And in Ratchet and Clank 3, there was a password named Megan, and I liked the name of it at the time, so that's why I picked Megan. And then it sounded too feminine, so I added MC in front of it, which is pronounced Mac, not MC. And there is no particular reason for it. If you really want to know, it's because back then, me and my friend back in high school, we just thought that the Mac prefix in the name, like you find those in the Scottish names, right? We just thought it sounded cool as fuck, so I put it in front of Megan. That's the origin.
That's interesting. It does make it sound a bit more masculine, I guess.
Yeah, at the time, I just don't wanna bait other people online, even though I still got a few PM here and there of people thinking I was a girl because of the name still.
It is a common point of confusion, I think, even still. Some people in the comments were confused, I think.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the Lavos situation in general, and we got a lot of comments about it. How did it feel to cause that ridiculous and iconic response from Lavos, your opponent, after an admittedly extremely lucky game, but you know?
Yeah. At the time, I didn't quite realize it, because I was too focused on my win, just making it to the final. And in fact, I didn't even see the post myself until I had some friends tell me, "Oh, dude, what the hell is going on? Look at Lavos' post." And I didn't see it. I was just too caught up in my own celebration, And yeah, as time went on, the post cemented himself at a legendary status. Probably the most iconic post of all time now on Smogon. And I'm pretty sure it's the one with the most likes too. It's closing in on 1,000. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's quite iconic. It's funny. I feel like we've seen just as like other very crazy posts on the forum. This one just happened to reach a broader audience, but like at the same time, the one thing I kind of dislike about it is that it clowns too much on someone I respect a ton as a competitor. It's like making fun of someone I respect. So it doesn't. It's funny, but I have some qualms with it.
And that being Lavos is being made fun of?
Yeah. I mean, people make. I've seen a ton of people react to the post, and like a ton of them clown on Lavos for being over dramatic. Well, I mean, he was over dramatic. That part is true. But for they are clowning him for losing to complaining about RNG in Pokemon. And I think for anyone who has competed seriously in the game, there are definitely a few times where you felt probably as much rage as Lavos. You just didn't talk about it in public in such a grandiose way.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that it's like written like an anime villain, but it's also kind of relatable. Like, we've all been there, Like, my play was superior, and yet
everyone has been here. I'm telling you, everyone. It's just that we are not as eloquent as him to express it. But trust me, every single player who plays Pokemon seriously has been there.
There was one funny part, though, when he said my prep was superior, and he actually couldn't have known that because the only Pokemon you sent out was Gyarados. He doesn't know what your prep was.
Yeah.
So
indeed.
I mean, his prep might have been superior, but...
Yeah, honestly, looking back, I don't know if there was even one game where he can argue that he had a superior prep. In ADV, though, his matchup in ADV was extremely good. I remember being thinking as the game went on, because it's still clear in my mind. I kept thinking, oh wow, like he always has that one Pokemon in the bag that I didn't want to see, and that kept happening. But every other game was disputed. Well, not the DPP, but we couldn't know that. So I don't know about the prep.
Yeah, I don't know if people realize the format for that was that you play every single old gen. So quite an interesting tourney
he probably
format.
prepped more than me that series. Not that I don't wanna sound like I'm gloating about winning without prepping, but my prep is definitely not my strong suit as a player, and that was true for this series.
I do think prep is an element where you can kind of get in your own head and over prep,
Yeah,
and it
definitely.
can drive you a little crazy. Like
I can count the amount of time where I lost a game or a tournament series, and I thought after the series, why did I even bother trying to come up with something new? And I didn't just run the teams that I always run instead, because that would have been so much better.
yeah, often it's actually a better choice to run something that you are familiar with and you know well, rather than cook up something for a specific opponent that so often ends up like a half-baked idea or untested or unfamiliar.
Exactly.
So, but some players do just, I mean, there's different skills in competitive Pokemon. Some people can like create a team for one opponent and succeed that way. Depends on the player, I suppose.
I mean, I think it's doable, but it's very dependent on the opponent too. Even more so, actually. I feel like that's only truly beneficial if you're facing someone who really only use one team or two, or just play one play style. Then it feels more safe to counter this than someone who just has a balanced pool of options to pick from.
I think even then you don't have to cook up a team specifically for them. You could just run something that you've used before that has a good matchup into whatever they commonly bring.
Yeah, that's what I do usually nowadays.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Generally. I mean, there's many ways to go. A lot of people also asked about, on that team, what else was on the team besides the Gyarados? Because we never got to see it. Do you remember?
Of course I do. I have a good memory for Pokemon. I will tell you right now, to this day, I actually haven't told anyone about the full 6.
Wow.
And I plan to keep this a mystery as forever. So I won't tell you or anyone listening to this video what were the other 5.
Wow, we're going to maintain the mystique. All right.
That
could have been
that's something I actually care about. The only people who saw the full team are some people I met IRL. And because I met them IRL, I felt like we reached a new bound in our friendship, and they were deserving on knowing the full 6.
This is classified information only for...
Yeah, that's less than 10 people right now.
Only a select elite few.
Yeah. I think based on what I saw from his team, like it clearly looked like bulky offense, or I think I had a reasonable matchup. You never know how those things go, right? But I think my matchup was fine. But I'll keep it that way. That's it.
Sometimes it's actually annoying when you get lucky because you didn't get to prove that you could have won honestly. And
yeah, I get what you mean.
Like maybe a part of your wish is that didn't happen and you just played a good game.
Nah.
Nah.
I will always say,
I'll take it.
If I could win every game easily with hacks or like 100% to 10 matchup, I would take it.
You have to. I suppose you have to take it. Yeah, is that how you feel about hacks in Pokemon? I mean, it's an element of the game. Do you ever feel bad for getting lucky, or do you just say, it's you signed up for this?
I feel a little bad still. Yes. Like personally, I don't even understand how some people can luck someone and then immediately say GG without anything else. Like to me, that's
a little rude. Yeah,
that's compute bot behavior, and I see it a lot. By the way, I don't even understand. So I feel bad for them because they got robbed of an opportunity to have a fair ending or to win the game sometimes. But myself, I don't feel bad because when you've played this long, you've definitely been axed out of dozens and like ton of tournaments. So when you do get the break yourself, you're like, yeah, I'll take it. I've lost enough by now. It balances out overall.
That's true. If you look big picture.
If I can, I would prefer to win via skill, because it feels more rewarding. But I don't hate hacking.
Play this game for this long. That's probably the smartest way to think of it. Yeah.
And I still always say sorry whenever I get like very lucky against someone.
As a good sportsman should.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even a sportsmanship. It's just because I feel it. I've been on the other side. Just basic decency to me.
A lot of people are like critical of competitive Pokemon because of that element of luck in the game. But how do you feel about that as someone who has so much experience? Do you like compared to other competitive games that maybe are less variance driven and more skillful, like fighting games? Where do you think Pokemon stands in that sense?
Yeah. So I think I have a good point, well, a balanced point of view on this because I actually follow and sometimes even play other games competitively. And I do like fighting games a lot too. So that's something I like, for example, about fighting games where everything is done to you, you know, you can blame outside circumstances. And I think it's both a strength and a weakness of Pokemon because the weakness part is obvious, right? I don't have to explain why RNG is frustrating as a player. And even though I've been playing for so long, I still get sometimes quite quite annoyed by it. In fact, if you want to know, earlier I said I was out of the ADV Council. That's because when I played in SPL, I lost like 2 games to pure match, 1 game to Axe and another to matchup, then another to Axe. And I was like, oh my god, I hate this game. Sometimes I don't want to do this anymore. So I just just X'd out of the tournament mentally, and I told some master, just get me out of the council. I don't want to care about Pokemon for the time being, or for any time soon. And so yeah, it's a weakness, and in a way, it's also fun because, for example, it means that you're not gonna see the better player win all the time. Sometimes it's Axe, sometimes it's just the sheer nature of the game, where the way it plays and the matchup basis. And I think it's interesting, right? Because every game feels worth watching. Rather than just the better player always winning. Then I think that's interesting. It also helps to get people into the game more easily because like you don't need that much time to feel like you're competent enough to be a threat or to get good runs in tournaments. And I mean, it's just a pastime at the end of the day, right? So sometimes when you get into a game, you don't wanna get into those kind of game like chess where it's gonna take you years to get to the top. So if you feel like you can be competent enough within, I don't know, 6 months, 1 year, then it feels more like easier to get into the. Sometimes I think in French and I can find the English equivalent. Sorry.
Ah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that a strength in Pokemon's favor is the low barrier to entry in terms of just jumping in and trying it, because a lot of games do require you to like play training mode for a bit, especially fighting games where you have to like learn the basic movement options, probably some combos, like especially, you know, I played a lot of Melee and that game is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I play Melee too, so that's my point of comparison. Yeah, with Pokemon, there is no technical barrier of entry, so that's already good. And then, like, obviously, someone with a ton of experience is gonna be much better than you. But the nature of Pokemon mean you can still have a shot, you know? Even if you're not gonna win, you can make it close, which feels encouraging. Whereas if you play another kind of game, you're not even gonna understand what happened to you.
It's true.
So yeah, that's my take on Axe in Pokemon.
I think Pokemon's a unique game. I mean, probably the closest point of comparison is like card games who have inherent variance to them and are played competitively. But I like Pokemon because there's interactivity and a psychological element, and there's an element of like outplaying that isn't present in card games where sometimes there are others like interactive card games where you can act on your opponent's turn and stuff, but it's a bit different, I think. Pokemon, you can always like bluff something or find a way to maneuver out of a situation, which I think is unique to like a turn-based strategy game, and it makes it feel really cool and flashy and exciting to watch.
And one big strength of Pokemon is that it has so much options. Like, it's a very nice outlet for creativity.
Oh yeah,
which is probably what keeps most people around too, because there is always something new to make and try.
Yeah, that's one of the best parts of Pokemon too. I think in card games there's a big culture of just like copying other people's deck lists. You can be creative in card games too, but the ones I've played usually copy people's deck lists and maybe tweak them slightly on meta forms that's pretty concrete. And in Pokemon, you know, there's a meta, but it feels like there's way more advantage to actually tweaking teams yourself and like understanding your own team and building your own teams.
I agree. I actually follow card games too, mostly Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And I agree with what you're saying, but I think, to be fair, it's mostly... So first of all, compared to net decking in card games, I do think in tournaments nowadays on Pokemon you see a ton of just team stealing. Not many people come up with new teams. But I also think it's also because of the tournament structure. Because when you play a tournament, like card games tournament, it's like VGC, you know, you have to have one deck for the tournament. So you're gonna go with like a very consistent options, which means while many people will try to make decks and tweak here and there, you can't just go too far in, like, you can just make something too inconsistent or with the risk of running into bad matchups. And I feel like in Pokemon, it's kind of it's the big difference is, at least in Smogon run tournaments and even invitationals, you don't lock a team, so you can actually afford to just use something that is a lot more volatile and get away with it, because it just needs to win one game.
Yeah, there's an incentive to have a pool of teams available as well.
Mhm.
I think as well, I think that it's
Like,
not a bad thing that people are able to copy teams and do all right with them. Like there's, a big 5 team you could just pick up and play and just
Yep.
try the format out. But what I like about Pokemon is I think that it rewards you for building your own teams. Like that creativity
agree.
is an advantage, and having something new that
Mhm.
people aren't aware of, or, taking the time to lab things out and like test things out. You can have a huge advantage if you have like a team that's really well adapted to an opponent or the metagame. So that's like really rewarded.
I agree. In fact, I would say most of the best players of all time also build and not only use other people's team, because it's such a big advantage to have a read on the meta or be one step ahead.
Yeah, a lot of the great players that I admire that are like really dominant have like really unique looking teams that don't look like anybody else's teams. Like the Linear Curve back in the day had some really wacky stuff. Like some of your teams have been quite unique as well in Gen 3 that I've seen.
Yeah, I try here and there.
So as someone who's played most of Smogon's OU metagames competitively at a high level, why don't you give me like a top 3 metagames of all time in your opinion? I would be curious to hear.
So I could give you an answer, but I feel like my answer is going to be extremely clouded by bias and subjectivity, because I feel so. For example, I think Gen 6 OU is quite, I would say, it's quite balanced right now, but I think it's boring and it doesn't really interest me, so I wouldn't put it near my top.
Yeah, that's fair. It is a subjective question.
Yeah. So for sure, ADV first, by the way, like no question about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be playing it still after so many years.
Agreed, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking. So, okay, one clear answer that comes to mind, but I think it's extremely based on the fact that when I started being active on Smogon, it was the main gen at the time. So I think it's linked to, myself discovering Smogon and the tournament scene, which makes me quite nostalgic. But I was a really big fan of Black and White 1 OU. So that was before Black and White 2 dropped, and I felt the meta was at a ton of different options in the builder, but also didn't have as many crazy things available as we did in Black and White 2. And I think Team Preview was pretty nice to play around at the time, at least for me. Then I honestly thought that SVOU before the DLC was amazing. So the SVOU of last year, I thought it was extremely balanced with, once again, a lot of options, pretty dynamic meta, and Terra is a pretty fun mechanic to play around game to game. I had a good time with those 3 overhaul. I'm trying to think. So it's not a top 3 anymore, but I think RBYOU, like I've had my qualms with it, but overall I have a very good view on the meta, because it's such a small pool of Pokemon that oftentimes when you're gonna think about like a specific playing line, it's actually easy to make it happen in the game. And I've always been a fan. I always been thinking that less is more applies to Pokemon. So I like how the small meta makes you get really rewarded by thinking how to play a certain line, or you make a set. It's hard to make a new set in otherwise. Sometimes it's more so a combination of Pokemon, or a way to start the game, or a way to use something. And the way it actually gonna plays out in practice almost every time feels very, very like fun to play with.
Yeah, Gen 1 is like that. It really shows how optimized Pokemon can get, which can be quite satisfying to play.
Yeah, agree.
And often a niche of a Pokemon in Gen 1 is like they can hit, Snorlax for exactly 38% or something, which leads to this follow-up. Like, it's crazy how specific things get,
Yeah. Sometimes it's a Pokemon, and sometimes it's just a set that feels like just a perfect way to build. I think I also had a really good time with XYOU. So once again, before Aura's release, and I think it's for pretty much the same reason as Black and White 1. I always felt like those pre-DLC meta. So you are always playing a new gen, so you have a lot of new toys to play around, and like the new mechanics too. So Mega, so you have Weather in the Black and White, you had the Mega in XY, and you had Terra in SV. And it always feels like you reach a nice state of balance up until you have the DLC or the new games at the time. So for Auras and Black and White 2, with a drop of like a ton of new move distribution and sometimes new Pokemon that are way too crazy to have around, and I don't quite like it as a result.
Right, so the common thread of that you like a smaller pool of Pokemon to play around with, and that leads to a more satisfying meta generally. So. I think I agree too, yeah. Although I like some of the DLC Pokemon in Gen 9, but pre-DLC meta was like post Pokemon Home with all the Hisuians and stuff.
Yep.
That's a good amount of Pokemon. That's enough Pokemon, probably.
Yeah, there was. honestly, I felt so. A way to describe it, I would say, is that it feels close to an old gen because you feel like you have a lot of options available, but the meta stabilized to the point where the new options are not like a new threat or a new set that's gonna seek so what's around. It's just a nice way to play against the trends and the balance score that have become the meta. You know, if that makes sense. I feel like it's more
Yeah, it does
rewarding
make
to
sense.
the meta. At least I feel like it's more fun to play in this kind of metagame where it's more about balance against balance than just HO on HO and stuff like this.
I think I agree. When the DLC first came out, HO was going insane. I think Alolan
Yeah.
Ninetales came out, or maybe it existed before, but like it had more synergies, and
No,
there was
no.
just every team was just Ninetales of Veil hyper offense.
It was in SV. It was Alolan Tails. We also had all the grassy terrain resurgence with Willaboom.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, Willaboom was already available, but it got so much better because it also had Alolan Tails. But we also got Ursaluna Blood Moon and Sneasler like just reached new heights because it was available before, but I don't know. It became broken.
A lot of that stuff is banned now, though. To be fair, so maybe we're reaching similar
Yeah.
stability now towards like the
No,
tail end of...
not quite though. I feel like it doesn't quite do so because we still have some crazy Pokemon like Gouging Fire who just had to get banned.
Yeah, I was.
And
I think Pinkacross, who is a pretty experienced player, said that like Ogerpond Wellspring is a problem, and Darkrai.
yeah, you had the Ogerpond, right? Darkrai. Gliscor is also like cancerous too. Not as much, but I feel like this Pokemon is unfair overall. But sometimes, yeah, I think honestly, when I look back, I feel like I always have a good memory of a metagame where I actively played. Because when I actively play something, I always like find my own style within the tier, and then I
Yeah.
have good memories. Because Pokemon is fun when you win, but when you win your own way, I feel. And to win your own way, you need to dedicate time to it.
Do you find some metagames are like get worse as you get more familiar with them? I've found that sometimes where you kind of realize that maybe the metagame of this tier just centers around like a couple annoying interactions or something.
Oh yeah. There's some stuff I really some meta I really dislike, and sometimes I even try to give them a new shot by playing them a little bit, and then I'm like, I don't have the free time I used to, so I'm not gonna bother playing something I actively despise.
Yeah.
Like it's been years, and I still think DPP is awful to play in overall. Like it's not fun to play around. Clefable shutting down every defensive Pokemon you can think of, and then Jirachi, and then Machamp, and all that stuff, all in one tier. I'm like, nah, I don't want to deal with this actually.
You might be one of the few people who's with me on that, but I've always thought it might be a skill issue on my end that I don't like Gen 4 that much. A lot of people respect that gen and really like it, but I've found the same frustrations. I was playing... I had a phase of playing pretty actively in tournaments. I never did very well, but I was grinding it, and I just got so frustrated with just the variance.
Yeah, because when you play Pokemon, you're obviously like familiar with the territory, so you know you have to deal with the variance, and you do your best to play around it. But sometimes you feel like it's too much variance, so why even bother when you could play something else, right? When you have so much, like that's the thing on Smogon, you have so much tier and generation to play. I would rather stick to something that I like genuinely, rather than forcing myself.
I think Gen 4 is a metagame where when you first get into it, it's very fun because it does feel like you can kind of just throw whatever you want on a team. Not whatever you want, but you can throw together a team and it can succeed pretty easily, I think. Like you just need like a rock lead, some threats, maybe some defensive backbone, and it'll probably function in some capacity if it's like decently well thought out. You can't say that about like Gen 3. You can't just throw together a team and have it work instantly.
I actually agree with what you're saying, yeah.
But I think that when you get more into Gen 4 and you're more optimizing and stuff, some frustrations arise where sometimes a lot of people were critical of something that who was NJNP, who I spoke with on a video, said. He said, and I think people took it out of context, like sometimes too many viable Pokemon can be a problem. But I think it's true if like you have... I think
it's extremely true, actually.
Maybe a good point of comparison is like Smash Ultimate, which is a game where there are a lot of viable characters. And sometimes like having to learn all those matchups is kind of annoying. Like you want a little bit...
actually think the exact same way, because so I've been following and playing Melee for a very long time, and sometimes I do watch the other Smash games where because they have some nice stories sometimes, or also they take some spotlight on before a Melee event. But the fact that so many things are viable, it feels lame in a way, because like you said, I would rather have one or two big, like a few top tiers where they are played to the max of their ability, rather than so many different things around that you just can't be good against everything. So sometimes you just lose to some gimmicks.
Yeah, I think like every good competitive game has like a central few strategies that are sort of different, but they dictate everything else. And then if there are mid-tier or gimmicky strategies, they can work in certain situations, but they're not going to. They're going to have clear flaws as well. I think that's probably a good balance to strike. Like we've seen in Melee, actually, like the rise of DK. I think it's pretty cool because DK is a mid-tier, and I think that that's like a good level for a mid-tier to be at, where they actually can do stuff. But when a mid-tier props up in a tournament, it's not going to. What am I trying to say? Like it has clear exploitable weak points, but it can also function in some capacity.
I sometimes it's hard to put into words what you're saying, but I think I get your idea because I feel the same way. It feels better when a game has had its time in the spotlight. Then you see someone who found some exploit in the top tiers and find like a mid tiers to abuse them.
Yeah, it's like rising up naturally.
Like
it's a natural evolution rather than everything being sort of at a baseline level of power, and then there's not that room for stuff to evolve on its own and for it to form its own identity. Like in Gen 3, I always use this example, but like Roselia coming up for a bit, I don't think it's that good, but it's kind of cool that like Roselia came out of the woodwork to solve this specific problem of like, it matches up well into grass zap sets and like melodic, and it's a spiker that has leech seed and aroma, and nothing else can do that. And I don't know, you wouldn't really see, like if Roselia was viable for some, just because it had like the same stats as everything else and it was just on the same baseline level of power, it's not as interesting as it rising up to viability because it does this insanely specific thing that like
I agree.
has a purpose.
I feel the exact same way because like if you watch games in any gen pretty much after Black and White, I will say, sometimes you will see an underrated Pokemon being good. But to be fair, if you look at the Pokemon like within a vacuum, it actually has good stats. It's just that there's so much options that it's good inherently, and that doesn't surprise me that it can be good in a game because it's just that those gen has so much option available. It doesn't feel special when a mid Pokemon is good because in the old gen, the Pokemon is usually actually trash, but you just found the one niche it could be good at.
Yeah, like Lunatone or something.
Yeah.
Like Lunatone being used is epic because it's Lunatone. It's got like 80 AHP or something.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way.
You got to strike that balance of like allowing things to evolve on their own. Those are the most interesting games for sure.
Yeah, I agree. But that can only be truly appreciated if you really are, I feel like, into the game,
Yeah.
As an outsider, it doesn't really gonna. It's not really gonna affect you, but you need to really be into the game to appreciate those nuances.
And games like Smash Ultimate are still good games that appeal to certain people, of course.
Yeah,
that's just my preference.
Same.
A question from Bunga, who asked, how did you feel about the Bloo cheating scandal and what was the public reaction like at the time? Was that the double kick thing?
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
And what was the public reaction at the time?
Oh, I was extremely affected by it. I feel like that's probably my top 5 of internet related moment, if anything.
Wow.
For a lot of reasons. I mean, the main reason are because at the time I was extremely close to Bloo. So Bloo was like one of the first person I started talking to on Smogon. And we even had a IRC. At the time we were using IRC. So we had an IRC channel with just the two of us talking about our lives pretty often. And that was also probably during my peak era of being involved in Smogon and Pokemon as a whole. Nowadays, it's still important to me, but like I have a lot of other things in my life. At the time, not as much. And I was also head tournament director. That actually happened right after, I think, because so Bloo got demoted for what happened, and as a result, I rose from regular 2D to ATD, and from moderator to administrator to fill the space that Bloo was using. And yeah, I was extremely involved for this reason, also because the main people involved in this drama were also like a lot of my close friends at the time. Because maybe I'm talking too much about it, like there is too many details that people don't really know of or don't remember because they weren't around back then. But people were suspecting Bloo to work with the player known as Hugo, Great Bastard, and both of them were very close friends of mine at the time. So not only I was looking at it from a tournament director point of view, but I was also affected as a person because
Yeah,
a
geez.
lot of my friends were at different side, were taking different side on this whole drama. Some people were thinking that like Style or Blue was not guilty, and some people thought they were. So this caused a lot of frictions within our social circles at the time, and some people started legit hating on each other for because of all of this. And I was in the middle of all of this thing.
It's quite dramatic,
So, yeah.
isn't it? Jeez.
Yeah, it sounds dramatic, but yeah, I mean, I was definitely affected. I could if I wanted to, I could definitely spend at least an hour talking about all the ramifications, but I don't think I'm gonna take that much time.
Cheating in like a niche competitive community is a weird thing, I feel. It's
Yeah, I mean,
like,
to
what's
be
the
fair,
point?
it's not so. Yeah, oh, no, I get it. You will find a ton of example of cheating within like every gaming community, no matter how big or small the game is,
Yeah.
because this has just to do with being human. After all, wanting recognition, wanting adoration from other. So I think from a psychological perspective, it's very easy to understand. But when you are in the middle of this mess, I think you're affected because what hit me more at the time and what hit people more, at least maybe people from the outside don't get it, but it was more, not so much the cheating, but the manipulation that came with it. Because a lot of people loved Blue as a person, and like Blue had actually a very crazy like Blue was kind of an icon on the website. Like a lot of people were adoring her, and a lot of people were confiding in Blue as a person. And so when this all came out, it felt like they were being manipulated by someone who was not
It's like a betrayal.
who they claim to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I felt too. So, and I know some people who felt even closer to her. It was interesting, at least. Made me learn. I would say, taught me things.
Yeah, and there was a cheating scandal in ADV Revival as well that I was quite surprised by.
Oh yeah,
And I was like, people do this? So like, I don't know, it's a bit of a wake up call, I guess. Like, I have this naive outlook that we're just here to play Pokemon.
Oh yeah,
and
that's. I mean, if you're talking about Giorgio, that's extremely naive to think that something like this would happen. To be fair,
I don't know.
I've been nowadays I'm not, but like I have been a TD for years. So every tournament you are trying to catch people exploiting loopholes, signing up with multiple accounts, ghosting.
It's
playing
kind of
together.
annoying. It's not something you want to devote energy to, but I guess it's just part of any competitive game, like you said.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
funnily enough, it's something that I don't think about anymore because right now I'm too removed from the game and the community, or at least the way I enjoy it doesn't impact what I'm about to say. But back then, when I was caring a lot more about the tournament scene, the prestiges of it, I was actually often thinking about how all the ghosting and how to prevent it, and it's just impossible. Like by the nature of the game, the fact that it's turn by turn and it's all online, like it's impossible.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can do, and it did happen to me, like, is that you cultivate a culture where you want people to feel proud for winning by themselves rather than just to win no matter the cost, which was different at the time because ghosting was like culturally fine. And nowadays I know it happens here and there, but I don't think it's as prevalent.
I suppose it's interesting where you draw the line on that stuff because, things like replay scouting have become common practice and that's not considered cheating, but there is a level beyond where you're like, information you shouldn't know through, whatever means, which would be cheating.
Yeah. I think everything is sort of fine unless you're being told like what to think and what to play in a game. Everything that happens before the game is fair game. And then when the game starts, it should be one-on-one.
Yeah, that's true. We got a question from fellow competitor Watermess, who asked, McMeghan, you've been a major part of the Gen 3 viability ranking system for a long time now. I would like to know what you make of the argument that some players now see Skarmory as number 1 and Tar as number 2. Additionally, I would be interested if you have any thoughts on who the number 3 Pokemon is.
I've posted every time I post my own VR, so I've talked about the subject. I think I am actually adamantly sure about it, that Skarmory is much more of a team building factor in the builder than Tyranitar. As in when you have to build, like Skarmory is the one Pokemon that if you try to cheat against it and you face Skarmory, it's over. It's gone. Whereas T-Tar is just a solid Pokemon within many. So Stand is a factor, but it's not gonna completely like destroy your team by itself. DD will, but that's just like Dragon Dance T-Tar will, but that's not because it's T-Tar. It's because it's ADV and you can cheat against speed boosters. So the same would happen against DD Mans or stuff like this. But Skarmory Spikes is like it's a much stronger move, which has a much bigger impact in the game. So yeah, I think Skarm for this reason is as a solid case for first, and in my opinion, it's deserving as such. Like I think if anyone, I think anyone who thinks that Skarmory isn't the biggest limiting factor in the builder is lying to themselves. It's much more so than Scent and Titor.
Yeah, I do
And
think
for
it's the
number
most important Pokemon you have to consider when building a team. But I suppose the subjective part is like, does that make it the number one Pokemon? Because there's other things to consider. Like Tyranitar is just the most usable Pokemon in the tier. I think you could put it on absolutely any team, and it has such variety. It could fit on multiple archetypes, serve different purposes, and it's in a way like the thing that it has the most metagame impact in terms of like what is viable around it. So
I think the thing about this like conversation is mostly VR by themselves are subjective, right? There is not an objective way to look at them. So obviously, if you are thinking should VR represent like the Pokemon you should keep in mind when you build, I think you have to check them to have a solid team. Then I think Skarmory is gonna be first. But I feel like Skarmory itself, because it's a Pokemon that only spikes and doesn't do much damage in a game. As a result, it's not gonna have the best the best value for its bucks when you use it, because sometimes you're gonna have a matchup where it has a hard time coming on the field, then when it does, it only gets the spikes and it's already maybe down to 30%, or you're just facing Magneton Claydol and then Skarmory's impact is already like really bad. And for all these reasons, you may think, yeah, Skarmory isn't the best Pokemon in the tier as a result. So I feel like it's extremely subjective. But personally, the way I see VR, it should usually I use them as a checklist when I'm building. I feel like if I'm good against the top Pokemon, I need to be good against the top Pokemon, and then Skarmory is gonna be the Pokemon that occupies the most room in my mind.
what do you think?
And
Like
in fact, sometimes
Blissy's number 2 then? Because I think Blissey is probably more important to cover than like Tar. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, yeah, probably. But I feel like Blissey wouldn't be near as. I think honestly, every Pokemon in the tier isn't as much of a problem without Skarmory. Because if you don't have spikes to like punish you switching around, then everything is fine. Everything that no, not everything is fine, but everything that is inherently defensive isn't a problem if spikes isn't around. So that's why Skarmory is always going to be the first thing you have to keep in mind. Because for example, you could have a team of 6 special attacker against Blissey, and if you're not being punished by switching around, then you can just like stay in front of Blissey and I don't know, use rest and stuff like this and switch around, and you are not being punished. You just keep healing and it's not a problem.
Yeah, spikes are the thing that force progress.
Yeah, I'm thinking for the other question, which was like, what would be the third Pokemon?
Most people say
It's hard to tell,
Metagross. I've said Zapdos
Yeah,
in the past. These days, I don't know what I say.
I never know what to say, dude. I always have a hard time myself ranking Pokemon for my VR. And I think the only clear answers to me are Zapdos, Metagross, and Swampert. It will be one of the three. Maybe Bliss actually. Like those four, I think are the biggest metagame.
It would be
Pokemon
one of
that
them. Yeah.
I also think Ducktrio is a case too, because Ducktrio limits so many things.
Interesting. That's true. Yeah. It's in terms of meta warping, Doug is one of the top. Like it did.
Yeah,
really...
honestly, if you take away Doug from ADV, so many more Pokemon become like instantly viable if you don't have to care about Doug.
True, very high metagame.
Yeah, even
effect.
some low tiers. I think it's quite it's very warping as a presence.
It's probably for the best though, because Doug punishes Blissey, which is important, and like I think actually Ragequit might be OP if there was no Doug. Ragequit would be insane.
Yeah, definitely. I still don't know sometimes. Sometimes I wish. Okay, I know I'm going like a ton of different directions with these answers, but
no, all good.
I would actually love for someone to host an ADV tournament, or maybe like an invitational event where they actually put a good money price, because that's what's gonna motivate people to play in. And you will understand why I'm about to say that. Quotation mark, fake tiers. Because I would love to see like a tournament, an ADV tournament without Skarmory and or without Ducktrio. And if you put a money incentive, I know people are gonna try out. And that's like one of the only way to see for me like how would the gen develop without these two in particular. Because when I build myself in ADV, I feel like Ducktrio and Skarmory are the two Pokemon that prevent me from using whatever I want. Everything else would be fine, but Skarmory and Ducktrio are the two limiting factors. And I think if you take them out, like so much more sets and Pokemon become viable to the point where it might actually be bad, because then we would go back to what we talked about earlier, where too many viable options makes for a worst tier, but I would still be interested to see.
That is such a it's an interesting thing to think about because like there are actually a lot of physical threats in Gen 3 in general. So Skarm is like countering all of them at the same time, which means it restricts like only the absolute cream of the crop are viable. Either they can handle Skarm or they get the most reward from eliminating Skarm. Like Salamence, Gyarados, Snorlax, whatever. Yeah, Skarm was just bans, then suddenly you'd see like Tauros, maybe Ursaring, like I don't know, all these Pokemon. It might be like impossible to cover them all, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I think honestly, but maybe maybe I got it wrong. But I think when it comes to checking Pokemons, it would be still fine because if you take away Skarm, and especially Doug, so many defensive options are now okay. Because the problem with a lot of defensive Pokemon is that Skarmory is just like completely dominate them. And it's gonna come on them, like doesn't take enough damage, progress with spikes compared to defensive Pokemon, inherently not really making progress without spikes themselves. So I feel like if anything, I would be scared that without Skarm and Doug, tier would become too stally. Because those two are the biggest deterrent to defensive playstyle getting out of end.
True, you wouldn't think that, but that's true. Yeah, Skarm just like does all their jobs in one almost, and then Doug punishes.
And I think honestly
a lot.
Yeah. Dugtrio punishes like defense and offense equally to me because like if you take away Dugtrio from the tier, now for example Metagross can really pick its boom target. Whereas when you use Dugtrio stall, sometimes Metagross you are just gonna sack something you don't need against what you are facing. Revenge kill with Dugtrio and Metagross didn't do the booming you were trying to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if you take away Dugtrio, offense probably get more boost than defense. Then I don't know about Skarm.
I mean, maybe Blissey is number one after that because without Doug or Skarm, Blissey is way more unchecked.
Yeah, maybe.
How do you even beating down Blissey would be the big thing you need to do.
Celebi would get like pretty insane without Skarmory around and Doug. So
that's damn true. Yeah.
I would just be interested to see how it looks like, but I'm not gonna put my own saving into this. So
we'll have to simulate it.
Who knows? Yep.
I think we're in a good timeline. We ended up with probably a better metagame at Gen 3. I mean.
Yeah, we have a really good gen overall, so can't complain. But as someone who's spent so much time on it, I'm interested in the alternative anyway.
Did you ever play Hoenn Gaiden, which had like new Pokemon and some buffs and stuff? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Nah. I'm really not into these kind of things. Like, for example, I've never played a ROM hack. No, it's not even that I haven't played. I'm not even interested in a ROM hacks with fake Pokemons.
A purist.
Yep. At least in this domain, I am.
It's fair enough. I mean, it is like those kinds of things have an issue of like cultivating enough players. As Gen 3 is official, you can queue it up. Sometimes those weird fringe metagames are a little bit of a difficult sell because you have to like challenge someone on Discord. It's like difficult to even find any interest. Even if they can be cool metagames. Like some of the best metagames of all time are like old Gen low tiers. Like Gen 4 UU. Everyone loves Gen 4 UU, right?
I hate it, but
you hate it?
I'm not gonna like shit on your parade, but I hate it.
I've heard nothing but like praise, and when I've played it, it's been fun. I'm not like good at it or anything though, because it's when can you play it?
I hate this.
What about Gen 4 Ubers? Do you like Gen 4 Ubers?
Yeah, I like watching it. It feels fun.
That's a good tier. We can agree.
Yeah. Like the powerhouses with no team preview and so much option. It feels like a complete like lunatic chamber. If you want another comparison, I like ADV 200, which is an extremely niche meta.
That's
but every time I've had to play it, I like it.
Before Emerald came out.
Yep. And even before Fire Red and Leaf Green, it's
I did some research on it for my Iceberg video to like get a sense of the meta and stuff. It looked kind of plain. Like as a Gen 3 OU player, I'm like, what? No. There's like a lot of important stuff. It's just like nothing gets sub, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. Nothing gets sub is very insane different. No Dugtrio too, so a lot of Pokemon like become really viable.
It's like Grumpig beats Regice. What's up with that? That's crazy.
Alakazam is also pretty bonkers.
True. That's one of those Pokemon that like is inherently good, but it just has an unfortunate metagame to contend with. But in a different timeline, that would be like an S tier Pokemon.
Yeah, it's the kind of Pokemon that someone is like always gonna come back to and give it a new try to. Then oftentimes it's still not good.
It's alright in Gen 3 OU, actually. Encore is so good.
I've toyed with it myself too for this reason, because I love Anchor as a move. Like, it's one of my favorite moves ever. And Alakazam is like one of the only Pokemon who can make use of it in ADV.
You like Jumpluff? I think Jumpluff's pretty alright.
Superior, but I hate it. I hate how Jumpluff flip because I feel like this Pokemon is all about 50-50s.
It is awkward. Like, it can sometimes just struggle to make any progress off its free turns. At least Alakazam can do more.
That's the thing. Because I feel like Jumpluff is good if you can really predict if he's gonna switch out and you leech it instead of Hard Anchor or Sub or
Against someone who knows what they're doing, it feels like Jumpluff just gets stalled. Like,
yeah, agree.
Either by like pressure zap or like Celebi coming in, whatever. Got a question from Munby, and you've been known for using your iconic French Pokemon names and popularizing that. What is your favorite of the French Pokemon names?
I don't know if I have a specific favorite. Let me give it a think real quick.
Sure. It's a big
One
question.
thing for sure, that there's some really good names in the following gens that not many people get to see because I don't play them as much. I know, apparently, from what I've heard from my friends, a ton of people love Ronflex for Snorlax.
Ronflex is a fan favorite, yeah. It's just it's a great name.
I know. Let me check real quick.
I think one of the funniest nicknames I saw at a tournament was Linear Curve named his Blissey Airmure, but with all lowercase. I just thought that was really silly and funny.
He always did. He always had those nickname themes, and usually they would be specific to the opponents too.
Yeah, making fun of his opponent a little bit in a lighthearted manner.
Let me think again. One I actually really like, but you don't see it because the Pokemon is absolutely unviable. But I like the Crobat line in French because for Zubat, Golbat, Crobat, it goes Nosferati, Nosferalto, and Nostanfer.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, I love this one a lot. I really like actually the legendary bird's name, Sulfura. So Sulfura for Moltres, Elector for Zapdos.
I like Thor, we know. I've seen that a lot.
And Articodin for Articuno. I love these. A ton of my friends also find Tyrannosif to be iconic.
Tyrannosif. I always call him Tyrannosif and people don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they love it. I'm taking a quick look at what else is available. Now, I think honestly the first answer that comes to mind are the birds. I love them.
Sulfura is awesome. That's
because it's a mix of gods and the element they're based off. Just give them such a majestic feel, which fits the Pokemon so well because they all look so awesome.
I would absolutely agree.
So yeah, those are my faves. Maybe at some point I will think of a Pokemon that I don't use ever, or people don't see that I really like the name of in French.
What's Muck
right
called
now, nothing else.
in French? That's
okay. This one is amazing. This one is amazing, actually. Let me hold on. Let me just find. So it's actually Grotadmorph. Which, if you so it's a mix of 3 French words, and if you translate them literally, it's big pile of mucus or big pile of snot.
And
this one is amazing.
It's precisely what he is.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, we have some really great name in French too, fair.
Seems like a language where there's a lot of wordplay potential.
Yeah, dude, the translator actually made such a good job with Pokemon as a whole.
They were.
They gave it so much soul.
They were cooking with that.
They were cooking a lot.
Sulfura? Genius.
I've always been a fan of Kick Lee for Hitmontlee too. But that one actually sounds just English. Just Kick and Bruce Lee.
Kick Lee, yeah.
I like Miss Drivers for Forever. That one sounds good.
We got a question from LRXC, an important question. You know the Pokemon that has Truant. How do you pronounce his name?
You mean Slaking?
Slaking. Yeah, that's correct. He pronounces it Slaking, which I don't know about.
No.
I don't know about that.
That doesn't make sense. It's slack off. It's like from slacking.
He's slacking off. That's even I, with all my mispronunciation, can put that one together.
Yeah. That's just just a meme of this, I guess. While you are going to other questions, I'm taking a look at all the Pokédex now to look for cool French names. I like Sableye. It's Tenefix.
Tenefix.
This one is great. I'm a fan of Gengar too. Ectoplasma.
Oh, we've seen that one a lot. Yeah, Ectoplasma.
Yeah.
Some of them I'm not even sure, like, you wouldn't think they're just a French name. They just seem like a fitting sort of English adjacent name that could just
I've
be.
had a ton of people think I mistype Fortress because I remove 1 R. Like it's Fortress with only 1 R. Just the French name is like this. It's Fortress with only 1 R. Is that a type or something?
Actually, I used to have a Gyarados, but I just removed the Y, like Gyarados without a Y. I just think it's funny to remove a letter.
But dude, I actually have the same joke with my brother because my brother still plays Pokemon, and sometimes we call Suicune, we call it Sukuin. So we change the I, like instead of after the first U, it's after the second U. Because when we were children, one friend at our school was just mispronouncing Suicune as Sukuin. So we just started calling it this way.
Classic.
Sort of nice little running joke between us.
Besides, like, the main OU tiers, what are some of your favorite old gens or other formats throughout the years? Like UU or Uber's formats?
Nah.
Nah.
I don't like low tiers in general.
All right.
I feel like they are just inferior variants of what you should play.
I feel like Uber's tends to be fun because it is like centralized around a select few Pokemon, and that makes it cool.
Dude, it feels so weird because like this is such a dumb logic, but every tier that isn't OU is an inferior variant of OU, but because in Ubers the power is actually greater than OU, I respect Uber, but I don't respect the low tiers. Especially Little Cup, that thing that I hate.
You don't like Little Cup? I actually like Little Cup.
Dude, I just can't get into Little Cup ever.
I don't like Gen 9 Little Cup, but you know what's damn fun is Gen 4 Little Cup. That's a good meta.
It's fun, yeah, because it's like a complete rock fest, but I just can't get into them.
I don't know if I would like main it in tournament, but it is damn fun to just queue up when it was on the spotlight. You could just click buttons.
No, some low tiers are really fun and like extremely balanced. Just inherently, I don't really have an interest into them, except Ubers because, like I said earlier. But when it comes to like playing, no, I don't actively follow a low tier like from one gen to another. You know, like some people they like UU every gen. I don't get it.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, like I usually have like a small phase where I'm into an old Gen low tier or something, and then I kind of get sick of it. I had that with Gen 3 ZU recently. No disrespect to the Gen 3 ZU community, but I was kind of like, I'm a little bit sick of losing to Gloom. Like Gloom is insane, and like.
Dude, I'm just dying, fucking losing to
Gloom was nuts. I couldn't figure out how to beat it.
This is not serious.
I couldn't figure out how to beat Gloom.
This is so unserious, dude.
No, it's very serious. Nose Pass was reliable for me, but in the Gloom matchup, I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like you go play Gen 1 ZU and suddenly you get swept by fucking Seeking every game.
Isn't that like Meowth is number 1 or something? One of those Gen 1 low tiers, Meowth is just godlike. I don't know which one. It's
That's the one
silly.
thing that is funny about the low tiers. Like some random ass Pokemon is so good in them. It's like the complete berserker.
Gen 9 ZU is ridiculous because like Clefairy is top tier and then Typhlosion is like B or something. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. No, I totally get what you mean.
There's just little babies and then like Typhlosion just towering over all of them. But it's like, why are you here?
The Gen 9 low tiers make no sense. I opened a game on Haru recently and Terrakion and Salamence was just chilling in Haru. What the hell is going on? This Pokemon terrorized OU a few gen earlier and now they're just jerking off.
It's all backwards. Nothing makes any sense. It's all gone wrong. We've got a question from Nadid Drab, who asked, "What things do you think Smogon could do to get more reach for its tournament scene? Also, you're the GOAT."
Thank you, Nadine. So wait, what was the first part of the question? What could Smogon do about the tournament scene? How to make it better?
And get more reach as well.
Oh, I mean, more reach? I don't know, honestly. I mean, obviously, if the staff could like put more money into them, but they run so much tournaments a year. I don't know how much they make in revenue to justify investing money for every official tournaments across the year, because like we have a lot of them. So if you start putting 2K in every one of them, then it's gonna sum to quite a bit at the end of the year. And I don't know, like I said, how much revenue they make. I know a lot of people have brought up the idea before of making having an entry fee. But I feel like that would turn off a lot of people.
I don't think it's a good idea for this community. It works in other communities, but for like online tournaments, I think you want to be accessible.
Yeah, I agree. I also honestly just think So it might be backward because I love Pokemon and it's fine to see it grow, but the nature of the game makes it impossible to prevent cheating. And I think if you start throwing even more money into such accessible tournaments, then like people are gonna feel even more inclined to cheat.
That
Because
is an
really,
interesting
it's
problem.
actually so easy to at least like play together in calls. Like it's legit so easy and impossible to punish. The only time people get punished for cheating by ghosting is when like someone just eventually sell them out. It's not like you can find any proof.
That's a pretty
So I don't
unfortunate
think
element.
yeah, maybe you could like look into. No, I mean the only true method would be so invasive, like someone recording themselves as they play.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we've
I don't have
actually been
a
talking about doing like in-person tournaments. It's not very like I don't know if
yeah,
it
but
would be the main way to play or anything though, because obviously the appeal of Pokemon and Showdown
yeah,
is the
and
online element, and you can play with anyone in the world. But
how are you gonna get people from all around the world too?
it would just be locally
There
based.
is too much logistic issue with this. With this.
Could be a cool idea though, like for a few events. But I don't know
Mhm.
if it wouldn't be a replacement for the current structure of things, of course.
Yeah. I think the best way to get money to tournaments, as we've seen from Invitational, is to fund them through people donation. So like Smogon could just like Smogon could probably have a much bigger reach online. Uh, than like you just put some money yourself and you ask for donation and it makes for the big pot at the end. And we've seen some crazy amounts in Invitational this way.
Yeah, we've been
Smogon,
doing it
I know
that way.
Smogon has been trying. Yeah, yeah, like you've been doing. I know Smogon has been trying to revive uh, its media branch in general, but I feel like they're quite clunky still.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been critical of Smogon and the way that tournaments are structured and advertised, but at the same time, it's like volunteer work. I don't expect them to, burn
Yeah.
out like making commentary and all this. Because as someone who's done like 80V Revival was quite a task. It was quite an ambitious thing that took
Mm-hmm.
a lot of work,
Yep.
and so I'd sort of understand that you can't just like click your fingers and it happens. Like
Yeah.
someone has to do the work,
Mhm.
and there could be like an incentive to do so. It got good viewership and stuff, but
I don't know if it's feasible because once again, I don't know how much the seat makes up, but like you could
I
maybe
think
have the ambition of actually employing people, so you could have a steady workflow.
that's what I
But
mean.
then
Shout out to Gold Mason, who is the TO and like administrator of Revival tournaments now. He's
Mhm.
he's done a lot to like manage that stuff, like the workflow and delegating tasks and everything. Not my strong suits. I was kind of just like going in blind
going
with
with the
Revival,
vibes.
and just like I ended up doing most of the annoying stuff, which was like a lot of work. But
Now you guys did an amazing job with this.
we're happy with how it turned out. Yeah, I think our effort paid off. But we're trying to figure out like how to not make it so stressful for next time. So
Mhm.
shout out to Gold
Yeah.
Mason, who was helping significantly there.
Yeah, what I thought was really amazing on your part, on you guys' part, is that you had a lot of people working on it, and it felt, yeah, like you said, that everyone knew what they were supposed to do, and it was quite nice to see, like, just everyone working toward the same goal, and it didn't feel like someone that was just overworking himself while other people were doing nothing. And I know that I think, if I remember correctly, that like your moderators were getting a compensation for their work.
Yes, that's true.
Or maybe
Yeah.
I'm right. I think it's also a nice way to motivate people, right? I know they're doing it because of the passion for the game, but when you on top of this actually get rewarded with
Yeah, well, yeah,
some
my
money.
logic was like, because the videos make ad revenue, so it's a bit weird if I just take it all
Mhm.
off the back effort of other people. So I distribute it like among all the staff and stuff, and
Mhm.
like commentators got stuff as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And
If
we're thinking
anything,
about a more formal way to do that, because it was a bit like weird how we did it, but yeah, I think the idea was good. So
no, you did a great job, especially for a first time. It was a blast.
yeah, I think we learned a lot about like because Pokemon is a unique game in the world of esports. We can't copy what other games are doing. Like a lot of us are fans of Melee in Pokemon, and we were looking to them for inspiration. But a lot of the stuff they do, we can't really do. Like we don't have in-person events, and it's not as logistically feasible to like do live commentary all the time, which was a big problem. Well, so and people don't really. We've found out that people don't really mind commentated replays. Like most people,
Yeah.
think that's fine. You do lose an element of like seeing people's live decision making and real time stuff, but just
Mhm.
logistically, it's a bit hard to do that for every single set because
Yeah.
like me and LRXC are like the commentators, and we're both from different parts of the world, and the opponents might be like from Europe and like Brazil or something. Scheduling at some like 3 a.m. for me and like 7 a.m. for LRXC. Like, how are we supposed to?
Yeah, I can confirm it's dire to schedule sometimes, especially.
And when you got to the commentators are involved, that's like 4 people have to
Yeah.
figure it at the same time.
No, I mean, a lot of people try to do it, especially like you said, as a hobby, as a passion, but it can become grueling and time consuming. You gotta
For sure, yeah.
reevaluate your priorities at some point.
But I think like ADV Revival did a decent job of proving that like there is a market for Smogon tournament stuff on YouTube. It wasn't like viral or anything, but it was pretty. I was pretty happy with how we did, and
Yeah,
like,
I'm actually like admirative and even surprised that your channel mainly consists. So now you've branched out or talking about Pokemon as a whole, like all gens, but you still have a ADV focus, and your channel is still growing, which is nice to see.
yeah, I think like if you talk about the same thing too much, people get burnt out. And I'm getting burnt out on Gen 3 a bit, just because like I was talking about it constantly, playing it constantly. So I'm just trying to branch out for the sake of like, you know, looking into new that like I talked about, you know, Hackamons a lot recently because I'm just interested in that right now because it's kind of cool. But I was surprised, like people thought I had this master plan to like advertise Gen 3. I was literally just like bored of Gen 9 and wanted to talk about Gen 3, and people just liked it. Like, I didn't expect people to like it. I was just like, I'm gonna talk about Swampert right now because I don't want to talk about King Gambit again.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of factors. The fact that first of all, like a ton of people grew up with Pokemon, so people like to revisit the old games, and also the fact that Pokemon competitively has also grown, so people like know about VGC now, and as a result it crossovers with, so people try to learn more about old gens and also have an interest for competitive Pokemon as a whole. So when they come across someone who's gonna talk about specifically old gen competitive, it's gonna bring them in.
I wasn't really thinking about this at the time. I think there was an element of like,
Yeah,
a lot of casual players were a bit annoyed with Gen 9 OU constantly banning stuff. And I'm not, you know, obviously they have to ban, like Gen 9 is broken as hell. You got to ban like Palafin, Chiyu, all these stupid Pokemon. But as a casual player, it is understandable to be like annoyed, you know, you build a team and then the next week it's banned and it's like, F this. So Gen 3 is kind of refreshing in the sense that like, it's just the way it is. There's no bans. It's just, this is the meta. Like that's, even other old gens, like maybe a casual player comes in and like wants to use Mega Kangaskhan in Gen 6 and like, oh, it's banned. Whoops. Like Gen 3 is just like, this is the game.
It's DPP who opened this kind of ROMs, and it had to be fair. But it's with DPP that we had to start tiering Pokemon actively.
That is, of course, except people who want to use Exploud and unfortunately get hit with the soundproof bed.
You want to know something funny? Recently, so it's not gonna come into play, so I'm gonna reveal this. But for your very hard invitational right now, ABR was talking, like prepping, and he thought about using Electrode, like not ironically, like for real, and because it would fix something very specific for the team he was making, and then he realized he couldn't use it because it had soundproof, and the reason he wanted to use it was for soundproof.
Oh, damn. I actually think the soundproof ban is kind of weird because, like, why don't you just ban mine?
No, that's what happened first. It was mine only.
Were other stuff abusing soundproof? And there's also suction cups, which is the same thing, but that's allowed, you know?
What was the reason again?
I think it's literally just because, like, it would be weird to have Mr. Mime in Ubers and UU at the same time.
Yeah, that might be it.
So they were like, well, we can ban the ability, and then...
Everything would be fine if they just banned Speed Pass, like I've been saying. That would fix everything and also not make the tier list looks whack like this.
I guess so.
But whatever.
But then have you considered that Vaporeon Select Pass is cool, and also a dual pass to Ursa Ring is epic?
Okay, that happens. For one Ursa Ring pass, you get 500 ninjas.
But have you considered that he's smarter than the average bear?
Huh?
Have you considered that he's smarter than the average bear?
Yeah.
So, preserve Speed Pass, folks? No, I would not be upset to see Speed Pass banned, but I do like using a dual pass sometimes.
I'm a big fan of Baton Passing in general. I love that playstyle. But it's cancer. But that's one reason I'm glad to not be tiering AEV anymore, because I hate tiering Baton Pass.
It is messy. It is very messy.
It's messy because of people. It could be very clear. Just ban speed pass. Everything's stolen.
I hope we don't get to a point where they just get sick of it and ban baton pass entirely, because that would kind of be a disaster. I hope that does not happen.
I think ADV will stop at speed pass, if anything, and then like it's fine. I don't think baton pass. I mean, I don't want to talk about baton pass actually, unless you want me to. But
we'll start seeing Staffberry Swallow fish for the speed.
I think baton pass is cool without speed, but speed makes it unfair. It's not meant for 1v1.
Got a question from Zaro Pevic, who asked, if you were to choose one tip for each level of player, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, which tips would you choose?
Okay, let me think. For beginner, you don't have to overthink it. Like, I think you just use good teams, good proven teams. You just get on the ladder and you just like play and get used to finding how to win regularly. Don't need to overthink. You know, it's like getting into anything, right? If you try to take advices from all sort of sources, you're never gonna get anywhere. You just have to get into it first.
Just
so for
get
beginner,
hands-on experience.
Just play. It's like getting into a sport, just go and play. Starting exercising, just go and run, you know? Then as you like get into something, you're gonna reach the intermediate level, I guess. That's where you are understanding what you are doing, and then you're trying to improve, but you don't really know how to yet. So I think at this stage, you're gonna try to. I think one of the best ideas is probably to ask people what you could do better, but once again, try not to spread yourself too much, but just like look into what people are doing and try to adapt your own approach to what you are seeing in others succeeding. Does that make sense, or am I getting too out there?
I think it makes sense.
So yeah, like let's say you are stuck, I don't know, on 1/300 ladder. You are not winning anymore, like as much as you were in the beginning of the ladder. So you start to watch other people and you try to imitate what they are doing. Because now that you got the basic, you are gonna try to incorporate new ideas in your playstyle. And that's when you're gonna reach, I guess, the advanced level, where now you are winning more often than not, but you still feel like you have a lot to improve. And now I think at this time of the game, you have to do more self-reflection, like analyzing your losses, exploring new ideas. I feel like there are a lot. You could always ask people once again here how to like for things that you haven't considered. I know for myself, for example, when I was when I was getting better at Pokemon, at some point, it's not so much about playing because you know how to win, but sometimes it's even factors out of the game. So how to prep better, like what kind of playstyle am I good at? Should I change my approach? Should I just keep spamming the same team, or should I try to bring a different team every game? Should I try to play more slowly? Should I try to play faster and trust my gut, you know? And until you find what works for you best. I'm trying to think because in Pokemon it almost feels second nature now because I've been playing so much. And when I get into a new game, I have to go through the learning process again, right?
Yeah.
So quite infamously, some people know that a few months ago I started playing Fortnite, which was my first time with a FPS. Well, it's not even a FPS, but with a shooter. And obviously I had to go through the learning curves. So I didn't get to the top level at Fortnite, but I still got like, I could still feel myself improving a lot. And at the beginning, I just had to play and get familiar with, you know, just movement, shooting, aiming. Then I started watching people play because clearly they were doing something that I couldn't because they were better than me. So I was trying to incorporate what I was seeing in videos in my own style of play. And then just little by little, you start improving. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it's good advice. What would you say about like the mental aspect of Pokemon and competition when you hit that advanced level, and then there's an element of like you get in your own head, maybe you're going to manage your own ego a little bit, like you think you're great, and then you stop doing things like self-reflection and looking at replays because you're like, I don't need to do that. Or like that's a common problem people have.
I think that happens for sure, but sometimes you gotta have a hardcore look at yourself. As in, you may think you are good, but if you are never making it further than round 3 in a tournament, clearly you are doing something wrong. So you gotta drop your ego for a bit. And like, okay, I'm gonna give you an example that happened to myself. So maybe you don't know, but for a long time, people were often making fun of me in ADV for bringing no rock resist in tournament and losing to flinches or like, and that's true. Like at a point in ADV, I would often use flimsy teams that sometimes we're bypassing what you should have in every team. And I would often lose. So I would often be ahead in the game, and then I would face late game Dedita or Aerodactyl, and I would be one flinch away from losing. And a lot of the time I would lose, and I would be like, damn, I was so much better than this guy, and I just got flinched and I got axed. And it kept happening and happening to the point where I started to think the problem is not it's the game, or if I keep thinking it's the game, I'm not gonna like get better. So I have to change something about myself. And I'm starting to use different kind of team, building different. Maybe I can't like be as flexible in the builder because I'm gonna have to bring up better rock resist, So that's one example, I think.
Yeah, it's
Like even nowadays, I still apply this to myself. Like if I use too much defensive teams and I keep losing to crits, then I'm sometimes thinking, okay, so I like defensive teams, but clearly when you are playing passively all the time, you're subjecting yourself to axe. So it's like it has more chance to happen that you're gonna lose to a game-ending crit. So maybe it's time to be less defensive and try to be more proactive in the builder.
That's very true. That's a common problem in a game with variants like Pokemon, is that when you get a poor outcome, you just blame that for why you lost, and that's it.
Yeah.
But often it goes deeper than that, and there's like an element of, did I invite this to happen because of the way my team plays or some decisions I'm making that led to this? Could I have prevented this earlier? Like, it's sometimes hard to identify what exactly the problem is. Sometimes you do just get bad luck, but sometimes it's not that clear cut. Like, you have more control than you realize.
Yeah, you definitely have to realize that it's Pokemon, so you're not gonna lose games that you were never gonna win because clearly it was an off day and everything was working against you. But it keeps and keeps happening. You have to start trying to find a solution.
Yeah, I mean, even in games without RNG, that happens. Like fighting games, it might be a different issue. Matchup variance, execution, whatever it may be.
Yep. I feel like they're just part of. I think that even applies in life in general. Like when you are unsatisfied with a current situation for whatever reason it may be, at sometimes you just can't keep blaming external factors, and you have to try to take a new look at your situation and see what could be changed to fix what's going on right now. Because obviously you could just complain, and because like complaining feels good, I think that's why a lot of humans like to complain.
It definitely does.
It feels good, but you are also not fixing anything. So yeah, I've always been on the mindset in general, but obviously it applies to Pokemon, that if I'm not happy with something, I have to think of a solution.
I feel like the human brain always wants to go down that path of like blaming externals and complaining for the sake of it. But even if you know these things, like when you say that, it sounds obvious, but you got to keep reminding yourself. You got to be like, no, let me return back to being intelligent.
You can find excuses for literally everything in life, for not starting something, for being being in a shit situation. But at some point, you gotta pick yourself up. It's the only way forward.
It's true. Dastardly Dwarf asked, being one of the best black and white players, how would you personally change the tier? The most divisive tier in Smogon history, with many strong opinions. What do you think? What would you alter about it to improve the format?
Alright, so that's gonna be easy to answer actually, because for this person, I don't know if they are used to browsing on Smogon, but if you check my posting history, okay, so if you go on smogon.com, if you go in Runes of Alph and Black and White specifically, you can search for post made by a specific username. So you look up post by McMeghan, and the most recent post is my whole take on Black and White and what to do with tiering in the Black and White OU tiering discussion thread. And to summarize it, I think Magic Guard should be banned as a whole, because all of Alakazam, Reuniclus, and now Clefable are cancer inherently and too overpowered. And I think that's the biggest thing I would do actually. The rest I'm not sure. Maybe suspect Latios, but I'm for sure in favor of banning Magic Guard.
Magic Guard is crazy. It feels like cheating.
Yep.
You just sidestep everything.
Yep. It's also extremely unpunitive to use it, and you can afford to make bad plays in game, but that you're not gonna be punished because you don't take any chip damage anyway.
At the same time, it's nice to use it and just ignore all of the enemy's nonsense. Just switch it at Reuniclus. Feels great. Can't get Scald burned, can't get Spike chipped.
Yeah, it's broken, dude. It's also the most toxic element in the builder too. Because if you certainly don't have to account for Reuniclus, Alakazam, and Clef, so many more sets and Pokemon become viable. And as a result, team structures.
It's interesting because we just talked about how sometimes that restriction can be a good thing, but in this case, maybe it's not.
It can be good when the Pokemon feels fair to play against, because sometimes a good Pokemon is good, like it's the best in the tier, but it doesn't feel unfair. Like Tyranitar and ADV and Skarmory are the best Pokemon, but they're not gonna like cheat their way through the checks. Whereas,
That's true.
oh no. Also, I would rather say they have an opportunity cost when you use them, because they still have the inherent weakness. They still have to deal with the same issue as every other Pokemon in the tier. But when you run some Magikarp, you are not dealing with half the things that are present in the OU environment.
Yeah, a lot of the natural counterplay to a Pokemon like Reuniclus is just ignored, which can be a problem. Did you disagree with the outcome of the Reuniclus suspect? Maybe you would have preferred Magic Guard was the target.
Yeah, but I would have been. I'm always willing to compromise. I think Magic Guard would be better, but I know people were absolutely not willing to remove it as a whole. And I was hoping that at least Reuniclus would be done for, but for some reason it only got like 35% ban. So
the community decides their own fate, I suppose. Yeah. I don't feel that. I don't play Gen 5 that actively anymore. I was quite like besides Gen 3, it's probably the format I've played the most in tournaments, but not too up to date. I don't
play it actively either, so it's whatever to me.
I always found Reuniclus very like there's no specific way to handle it consistently. The best thing I came up with was like a Subcarmine Jirachi with Water Pulse, and you literally just parafuse it to get through it and 1v1 it. Because even like Subcarmine Thunder HP Ice Jirachi would lose to Reuniclus 1v1.
Yeah, that's not even a good answer to be fair. If you are not in rain, you are not doing too little, and then Explosive Psyshock is gonna break your sub and you just die.
Yeah. But like you could hack through it, and at least like you could still power them in without rain if it comes to that, and you're not getting sad chipped. But it isn't fantastic.
Nah, I've tried before.
There's like Scizor, but then I feel like Pursuit doesn't do enough damage to Reuniclus as well.
But the problem with all the check of Reuniclus and Magikarp Pokemon in general is that they're weak to spikes, which is why the meta is the way it is.
That's true. So the thing about spikes is it like you force in the things that respond to you, and then they lose, but you don't lose because you're immune to the spikes. What a concept! What a concept!
Yep, which is what happened in every gen of Pokemon, in fact, because that's our single end up. That's our singles always end up without the presence of boots, which has its own issue, by the way. But
I don't mind it in Gen 3. So I feel like getting 3 layers up is hard, and clicking spike with Skarm, you might invite in like a threat that regains momentum pretty easily, like a Molt coming in or something. Even though you got your layer, like you're still inviting that, and Skarm could be trapped, and even like the stuff you force in, like Swampert has Chip Heal, and it doesn't feel that crazy. But there's no Magic Guard in Gen 3. There's no other broken stuff.
Is naturally healthy, but when Magic Guard and Spike get together, that's when the troubles start.
Cool Cat asked, "What would you like to see for Gen 10 competitive whenever that comes out?"
Dude, that's I don't know. That question is too hard here. I don't think about.
I've got things I wanted to see that will never happen ever, but.
I honestly don't know. What were you about to say?
I want them to just like overhaul everything and just make the game more balanced overall. Like get rid of like 10% freeze, get rid of like all this stupid 10% chances. People were mad at me for suggesting it, but I think 10% secondary effects are dumb inherently.
Yeah. Dude, there is actually one thing that I hate is that I feel like it would be so good if you could at least not get crit on the first time a Pokemon like uses a move. I feel like crit should only be enabled after one use of a move.
Yeah.
But for the first time you take a move, you should be able to like know what's coming. There is nothing more annoying than like losing to that one crit like a key Pokemon early in the game, or at the end of the game you have the game on lock and then the Pokemon crits you and you just lose. Like this mechanic is so dumb.
That would feel better because if you're like sitting there Carmining up and you get crit, it doesn't feel that bad because you're inviting it multiple times. But if you get crit on the first turn, it does feel bad.
Exactly. This could be applied to every secondary effect, like first turn freeze, first turn power, things like this shouldn't happen.
Maybe
You
that
should be
would.
able to know what's coming at least one try, and then you know that by inviting in more try, you are like putting yourself at risk. But then, like not getting axed on the first one would be such a nice, would be such a strong improvement to Pokemon.
That's a pretty elegant solution, I think, actually, yeah. I wonder if that would have interesting ramifications, though, like with that somehow buff stall or like defensive boosts.
No,
Maybe.
no, no,
Not
no,
really.
no. That's the thing. The fact that it can't happen on the first turn would buff every playstyle but stall, because stall you still take repeated hits. So that's why I don't
Right,
want
yeah,
to
yeah.
nuke. Yeah, that's why. If anything, stall is the reason why I don't want to nuke Axe as a whole. But then when you play a regular game, then you know what's coming. You know, you actually can plan around and not always have to risk losing to some dumb shit happening.
I like that. I think that would be good.
Which ties back into how I just lost in Davy Cup, actually. Because in game 2, my Spiker get crit on the first turn it's on the field, and as a result, I lose the game, because without Spike, my team doesn't work. At least in this specific matchup. I'm like, this is so fucking done, dude. If at least I can get my Spiker for free. I mean, for free, you know what I mean, right? Like, not risking dying to a crit.
Unfortunate doesn't begin to describe such an outcome.
Exactly.
It's just blind luck, nothing else. What could you say?
Yep, I baby rage a little bit, but now I'm brimming with joy, still from detachment.
In terms of like new content, would you like to see like Megas come back or something, or I don't know?
They're definitely coming back though with the Legend of Z.
Yeah, I guess it's unclear if they'll come back in like the mainline Gen 10, but possibly.
Oh yeah, true. I do love Mega as a whole. I think that mechanic is sick. And as a Pokemon fan, not like I'm not a competitive fan only. I love Pokemon. Seeing Pokemon revisited with new stats and new design, I'm a sucker for them.
Yeah, I feel like a bit off topic, I guess, but I feel like something that annoys me about the wider Pokemon community. It seems like they love feature creep. Like they want everyone to be able to do the gimmick. That's why a lot of people defended Dynamax, because they were like, only certain Pokemon can Mega Evolve. I want every Pokemon to be able to do a shallow version of Mega Evolution. But I think that's
the thing,
less interesting, because like every Mega was intentionally designed. And if you just give everything the mechanic, but it's surface level, is that better because more things could do it? I think it's actually worse.
I completely agree with you. And in fact, every mechanic that has been available to everything is so forgettable to me. Because like you said, it's just basic level, so it's just boring. Like it doesn't have any style, it doesn't have any personality.
I guess that was Gigantamax, but I also found that a bit lame compared to Mega.
Yeah,
it's like the same thing, but
it's extremely forgettable to me as well, because the Pokemon has the same stat. It's only 3 turns, 2 on the field.
I guess not every Mega was good, but some of them were. Like there's some underappreciated Pokemon that got some cool Megas, like Ampharos and Lopunny and stuff.
Yeah, because they felt like their own distinct thing. Terra is boring too in a way. Like Terra still is. It's like Dynamax. It's just boring as a result.
Yeah, it's probably my second favorite one though, just because it can be interesting in terms of decision making in game. But
I'm thinking, I don't know. I like this question is to why I don't have a mechanic I can think of for Gen 10 that would like make me go crazy.
Something I suggested in the past was I think it'd be cool if they had like some sort of like time travel thing where you can go back to old mechanics. Like Gen 1 Hyper Beam comes back or something, where I don't know, Tauros could like turn into a Pixel Tauros and do Gen 1 Hyper Beam. I think that'd be sick, to be honest.
That sounds very funny, but I feel like that's too niche, because the new gimmick is to please every fan.
Yeah. But I don't know, in like Mario they do that kind of stuff, like nods to the old games, and like for a second it turns into like, you know, Mario 1 mechanics or Mario World mechanics or something. They always do that. It's like a celebration of the series. So I feel like Pokemon, they should do that. Bring back like, I don't know, maybe physical special split exists for like 5 turns or something. Oh, like no physical special split for 5 turns or something. Like you could have physical Shadow Ball again or whatever. Hidden Power Bug. Or there's no Hidden Power anymore. But
I think something that sounds very straightforward and would have a lot of appeal is fusion in general. Like if you could just fusion some Pokemon together. Yeah,
fusion is a popular idea.
But then there are so many Pokemon that I don't know how that would work. How they could make it like logistically fine without turning into a boring thing.
Yeah, I talked about this Showdown mod recently on my channel called Fusion Evolution, where they do intentionally design like specific fusions. You can't just fuse anything, but they like work to design interesting ones, and they actually combine the abilities in like a way it's not just both the abilities in one. It's like they combine both the effects
Right.
in a way that's
Yeah,
like unique, which I think that's more interesting than Infinite Fusion, which is just like an algorithmic thing where you fuse them. So maybe they could have like specific fusions they make, but then
yeah, I don't know how they would. I feel like if they wanted to do fusion, they would have done it so much earlier, because like that's such a popular concept.
now they're doing every gimmick has to apply to every Pokemon. So if they did fusions,
Yeah.
people would be furious if you couldn't fuse whatever
Exactly.
you want. So they've
That's
kind of
legit what I'm thinking.
put themselves into a corner there, haven't they? Like, and then if you could fuse anything, the meta would be hell. Like you could, there's just 1 billion Pokemon, right?
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
So I don't know if they would do that. Or maybe they could do specific canonical fusions, like they've done with Necrozma, whatever. There's the canonical fusion.
Yeah, but then it's boring if it's only one or two.
I suppose, yeah.
Something I thought about, but that's also boring, is like maybe you could have a Naruto Filt effect. I think they do that on Yu-Gi-Oh! The mobile game, where if you pick certain characters to represent you, you give like a boost to your demon card, for example. So maybe you could have you pick a specific character or bonus, and like suddenly all your Pokemon are 5% stronger, 5% faster.
Right,
and you can
like a hero. Like you're picking a hero who has a passive effect.
And then depending on your teams, that can be used to different race. Like if you go HO, you pick the offensive trait. If you go Stall, defensive trait. I don't know what else you could do.
That could be interesting, yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. Got from Blues Energy has a question, actually. Said, give me your hottest Gen 3 OU take. What would that be, McMeghan?
Hottest take? Bruh. Man, I feel like it would have been so much easier to answer this when I was a lot more involved. Right now, I'm kind of like chilling. I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I would love to see the gen without Skarmory and Odorfio, because I have a slight feeling that it might be better. At least with the way I play the game. It's kind of, but I don't know if that's like super hard of a take.
So almost like Skarmory should be banned, almost. Not should be, but maybe it should be.
Yeah, it's not I'm not too sure about it, so I don't think it's really a take. I just want to see.
Maybe the take is that like Skarmory's kind of lame.
Yeah, oh for sure. Skarmory is so lame. Like, okay, I'm gonna say a take now. So I think a ton of players are bad and are carried by Skarmory, for sure. In fact, that's not ADV only. A ton of people are bad in like a ton of generations that are just getting carried by brainless Pokemon like Skarmory, who just survive every hit and get lasting effects on the game by putting spikes up.
I suppose. At the same time, like, Gen 3 is Skarmory. Like, it is the format. And using Skarmory effectively is a skill. Like, Skarmory does have limited HP. No, you gotta squeeze every little bit out of it, and like...
No, it is a skill to get good at using Skarmory, but so much people would be worse if they couldn't use Skarmory at all.
It's... Yeah, I mean, when you have such a consistent strategy, like... You could probably bring Skarmory teams to every game almost and succeed. Although there are hard counters people bring, but
it's too easy to use. I hate the Pokemon that are easy to use. Some people get too good with them.
There's something to be said for there should be a good central strategy, like I don't know, Melee Fox or something, like where you could just main it and you're fine.
Yeah, but like what you said is true, but like Fox takes skills to be good at. So if anything, if you're trying to use Fox at a low level, you're gonna get destroyed by every gimmick in the game, because like all the gimmicks are geared towards beating the species.
The same could be said for Skarmory. I don't think that you can necessarily just pick up Skarmory and do well with it, because actually, like an experienced player will just tear you apart probably if you're just using Big 5 Starmie or something, and you're completely new.
I don't know, man. Nah, I don't think so. I think Skarmory is much easier to use than
I suppose. I suppose. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Blue Energy. I don't have a strong take. I don't think a super hot take right off the plate like this. Ban Sleep, by the way. Sleep is dumb. I don't know if that's a hot take.
That's a hot take.
Sleep is a stupid mechanic. Should be banned from every gen, legit. Only RBY maybe should keep Sleep.
I like Sleep in Gen 3 because I feel like the only guy I don't like with Sleep is Hypnosis Gengar, because that's stupid because it's too fast. But every other Sleep user is like somewhat limited in what it could do.
I don't care. I think the status is absolutely dumb, dude.
Don't you like using like Loom teams? It's fun. You spore them.
Huh?
Like Breloom mixed offense or something is fun there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that it's not fun to use. I just hate the status. It's extremely volatile as a whole. Like even playing with it or against it, Pokemon can wake up immediately. Sometimes they're not gonna wake for 4 turns, and you try
Right.
to wake up, and suddenly you give 4 free turns to your opponent. You try to play a game of 6v6, but when you have something asleep, you're actually playing with 5. Every Pokemon that is asleep is free opportunity to do whatever you want, whether it is eating, setting up. It just introduced so much dumb RNG.
That is all true. I do find in Gen 3 the most consistent sleep users are at least limited. So like they get the early sleep, but then they pay for it long term because like Breloom is kind of slow and easy to stop with like a med switch it or something. Or like Venusaur is pretty good.
Okay, that's true, but think about it. Conceptually, the status is broken because
Yeah.
if you, so
For sure.
I always think if you want to see what's actually broken, like in a vacuum in Pokemon, you look at what's being used in anything goes or stuff like this, because that's where you actually use what's the most broken in Pokemon. And then you see everything with sleep moves because wow, yeah, the status is actually absolutely
Yeah,
bonkers.
for sure, it is broken like inherently.
Yep.
But it can be balanced if you think like because there's a lot of Pokemon that have a broken move, but maybe they're limited in some area. It's like a balance of all of their traits. So
I feel like it's always down to if anyone wants to actually explore it and abuse the broken traits. I feel like Battle Pass is similarly broken, and for a long time people think, nah, Battle Pass is fine because like it has X and Y limitations. And then someone is gonna look at it the right way and make it broken. And I feel like with sleep, it's often the same. Like for example, for a long time in SV, people were not minding sleep because it was not that good. Then people starting putting sleep on Iron Valiant with Terra Ghost or Darkrai, and suddenly, oh, actually, the status is broken. Even when it's limited as split close, we might have to ban it, and that's what ended up happening.
That's something I like is when something's balanced by accuracy. Like a fast Pokemon with Hypnosis is just stupid game design. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I mean that's the thing is that like Gen 3 OU was not an intentionally designed competitive game, so there are sort of these situations that are just dumb. Like, I think Hypnosis Gengar is one of the worst things in the tier. Just because, like, it is so inconsistent to play around and it's too fast for a sleep user and it's just annoying all around.
I completely agree, man.
But sleep can be okay in other contexts, I think. I don't know. Like, I like Breloom. I just like Breloom, basically. I feel like it's balanced.
I like Chapignon, too. That's my man. But he gotta go.
Sorry, Breloom Nation. It's probably broken in like Gen 4 though. Like Spore Breloom is a bit nuts in that gen.
Yeah, people back the French community used to call Breloom Chappy cheap. Chappy for Chapignon, the French name, and cheap because sleep is cheap.
Oh, because it's cheap.
Yep,
they were onto something.
They were.
As usual, the French are ahead of the curve on that one. Got a question from Ninth Floor, who asked, as one of the most decorated players in Pokemon history, would you put yourself on the Smogon Mount Rushmore? If not, who is your top 4? Oh, you would put yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm top 1. The only person I'm accepting at other top 1 is ABR. Everyone else is below me.
What about Soulwind?
He's below. I'm better than him.
Wow, there you go. Well,
actually, no. Okay, he has more accomplishment than me now, but that's just because he plays everything all the time, and I don't. But if I were, I would win more than him.
That's strong words.
And yeah, no, there is Empo too now. Like
yes, yeah.
I think Empo wins like so much. It's crazy.
Well, if you think about like being active as not that much of a factor, and maybe it's more nuanced. What about BKC? BKC is kind of the goat.
He's goated. I consider I think that comes with this territory. When you try to be the best, you already have to think it yourself. So right, no, you're not gonna make it.
That's true.
But like BKC for me is for sure top 5. Because I think BKC is one of the only person where I like to listen. So I don't take the time to listen to all his videos, but when I do, I always learn something, or he's gonna explain something about in a way that I haven't really considered it myself. So that shows how much he understands Pokemon at a fundamental level. But I mean, to be a GOAT is not to understand Pokemon, but to also play it. But he's also extremely good. He's just like kind of inconsistent at times. But when he's on his game, he's one of the most impressive player I've ever seen.
And a lot of impact in set innovations and
strong
legacy.
In terms of like team building and metagame impact, to me, he's in all gens at least, is the most impressive with ABR. Like these two are like a step above everyone else when it comes to making new standards.
That's valid, yeah. I mean, I actually spoke with PPMD, who's one of the greatest Melee players, on a podcast recently, and we had to talk about like the Melee GOAT conversation, and it can get subjective. You can try to make it objective, or it's like the most amount of tournament wins and like the longest period playing. But I think that's almost a different skill of like endurance or something. Like there's different skills in terms of being a great player. And in Pokemon, even more so because there's so many generations. Like I suppose, the GOAT player probably is, in an objective sense, like the players with the most consistent tournament success in every generation over the longest period. But then that's kind of insane. Like that's a different skill almost. And there's like someone like the Linear Curve or H-Clat who main Gen 3 and are just incredible.
Yeah.
And that's just as valid, I think. Like why do you have to spread yourself thin and play every gen just to be considered a GOAT? I don't know.
No, I agree. A few weeks ago, I spent a week in France with some of like the Pokemon player, and we had a conversation at some point at the table. Like, if you were to pick someone to fight for your life, what tier and what player would you pick? And my two answers were Eric Troller in RBY and Linear Curve in ADV. So I didn't even go with the GOAT, so to speak. I picked the highest selling I've seen.
That's a good way to phrase the question. You're like, your life's on the line. Who are you putting? Who are you putting your faith in?
Yeah.
You think Linear Curve could keep up with modern players? I suppose if he like absolutely had to. And
for sure. I think it's only a matter of like him having the energy and time to pour into the game. But if he wants to, he would completely dominate.
I think if his friend McMeghan's life was on the line, we would see probably the best Gen 3 OU we've ever seen. Right there.
I have extremely high respect for Linear.
I love his YouTube channel. He hasn't uploaded in a long time, but I found that very aspirational when I saw it. He's just like, what struck me the most was how he was analyzing some SPL game and he was just getting destroyed by bad luck. Like he was using some Machamp team and missed like 4 cross chops in a row. And he just didn't really like react at all. He was just like, this is unfortunate, but I'm going to reposition myself for the next... He just like doesn't care. He's just like, I am a robot who designed to play to Gen 3 OU at the highest level. I will never be affected by emotion.
Yeah, to be fair, SPL isn't like the greatest test of skill because it's only like best of 1 game.
It's true.
9 game only. Like the 9 games is nothing.
It's treated like the best tournament of the year, but I've always disagreed with that. Best of 3 and like Kalos Invitational, obviously, and tournaments like that are better. But still, it's a high level tournament situation, and he was just very
fun.
composed.
It has its perks. You have to stay composed too. Like everyone who stay in the game is quite composed at the end of the day. Otherwise, you don't last, or you just like keep blaming outside factors and you don't make progress.
I think people deal with those things in their own way. Some people do actually get emotional, but they can still perform anyway.
Yeah, no, you do get emotional, but you also back to once the heat is gone, just look at the facts coldly again.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll finish this off with a humorous question from Insert Funny Thing here. Would you be able to beat a Gyarados in a fight? You get outsped, however you are equipped with the power of Thunder Punch. What do you think? Could you survive a hidden Thunder Punch? Would you one hit?
Nah, it's Joe for me.
It's Joe.
Unfortunately, wouldn't begin to describe my fate in such a situation.
No. You would be getting flinched for sure. This is the karmic debt you must pay for what you did all those years ago. Gyarados himself is come.
Dude, you want to know something funny? When I went to the EUIC in London a few months ago, and they had the Pokemon Center inside, and they had like a part where they would sell Gyarados hoodies, and I was like, oh my god, this was made for me. I did it, and unfortunately, I was there on the last day, so they didn't have my size anymore. But I felt like that was such a calling. I tried at least like 10 of them.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, one day you'll get that, and it'll be a fitting garment.
Gyarados is definitely my it's my Pokemon,
It's
I
your
feel
favorite?
like it's my it was already among my favorite, but it's the Pokemon where I feel the closest bond with competitively.
I think there's a clear reason why. Yeah.
Yeah.
One
But dude,
one
that's
particular event.
not even the only game where I won with Gyarados from the lead position.
It is kind of a beautiful Pokemon. It's really it feels great to use all the time. Always great typing.
I love using
design.
it in every gen. I know in Smogon 20, I was in quarterfinal in Oras, and I brought Chesto West Gyarados, and I won
Oh,
from the
that's-
lead again, 6-0.
That's wonderful. That's a classic.
I love this Pokemon, dude. No Pokemon has gotten as many 6-0s for me as Gyarados.
It's a gamer's
It's the-
Pokemon. And
Yeah.
I love it in Gen 3.
It's my Cynthia's Garchomp, you know? My Stevens Metagross.
It's the signature.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for chatting today, McMeghan. We had a great conversation. Any closing
Yeah,
thoughts?
it was fun. I love Pokemon, and hope many people do and will keep showing the passion toward the game.
That's beautiful. All right, take care. See you later.